How y'all doing? This is Kotow, trying something a little bit different this time. Going to be an event intro, and the first event we're going to take a look at is the Southern Aggression. But before I get into there, I've got a number of guests here with me that are members of the event or admins of it. So I guess starting from the top left, guys just introduce yourselves, just so that the audience knows who you are, your unit, and your relationship to the TSA. Starting out with Mr. Joker.
All right. Well, my name's obviously Captain Joker from the 19th, and I messaged Knight, I think when he first started the Southern Aggression, say, "Hey, I'd love to come aboard and help." Fortunately, it took us a little bit longer than we wanted to get here, but we're here now, having a blast.
Awesome. Next up, I think, is Mr. Hood.
Hello, I'm Captain Hood of the 42nd Pennsylvania Bucktails. We're the oldest unit in War of Rights. And yeah, so I was actually in the room when Mr. Knight pitched the idea of the TSA in the HCC Discord after an event one night. And then took us, because we're bureaucratic, about 2 or 3 weeks to actually get in. But since we've been in, there's pretty much the only event we are ever going to go to on Fridays, probably forever. Quite frankly, we've done it all, and they've all been pretty shit.
There we go. I guess next up, I think I'll leave Knight for last. I'm going to break my mold here. Mr. Bubbacat.
Hey, this is Second Lieutenant Bubbacat from the Kelly's Brigade and 22nd Virginia Battalion in Graves Battery. We came back to War of Rights after a long break, and there really just wasn't any events that were just awesome anymore. You know, after coming back from a year, we decided to go with Night, and we even decided to brigade up just because of this event. And ever since then, we love to kick ass and take names.
Nice. And then the man himself, Mr. Knight.
What's going on, y'all? Colonel Nutt, Kelly's Irish Brigade, owner of Southern Aggression. The Southern Aggression event is an event that I created back, I want to say, early 2020. It was a event that derived from the IVR, which was the Independent Volunteer Rifles, and that was led by Captain Raider of the 3rd New Jersey. Took that event after it crumbled, took all the units that were there, rebuilt it, made the Southern Aggression. It had shut down for a little while, then it came back, and whenever it got reformed and stuff like that, took a while. It was real slow paced, but reformed the event, and here we are today. And Mr. Kotal is so kind to allow us to do a event intro for y'all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been watching just myself. Kotow. It's an overhead view of certain events in War of Rights. I've been covering TSA for about, I want to say, 2 months now. I think I started right around January. I think I got an invite from Mr. Knight and his team, and it's been enjoyable ever since. But yeah, going back to you, Knight. So TSA, what kind of event is it in War of Rights? How would you summarize its style?
So, Southern Aggression is an event that I created to basically kind of give like a North American UEC HRE style. Um, there, no third party application, voice communications besides your Discord or your TeamSpeak for your groups. Trying to basically kind of bring a little bit more of a relaxed but more realistic kind of fight style to it instead of just, a public event where you just run around like chickens with your heads cut off or, just pubbing, going into pubs and just getting shit talked by anybody and everybody. So trying to kind of make a place that everybody unit that is participating can call home and actually have a fun enjoyable experience. Try to keep it fun, clean, friendly everywhere, and just all honestly all around more of a structured kind of event that's got rules but not so many that it makes you want to thump your head against the desk while you're trying to play.
Nice. I think you definitely achieved that. It's a tough balance between the two styles, and there's always that debate of the European versus the NA style, but I think TSA manages to kind of split the middle very effectively on it, at least from my vantage point. Now I'm going to open this up to anybody, but what Knight kind of laid out what he found it. But what do you guys? Is there anything else besides what Knight put out that you guys find really enjoyable about the event that brings you and your guys back to it each week?
Well, the one thing I can say, Kotal, is that this event right here, you have to hit hard and you have to be able to adapt to the battlefield. I don't think there's an event where you have to do that. It's fast paced, it's moving. If you do not adapt to the battlefield, you're either going to get left behind, swept, wiped, whatever you want to call it. But you got to come in with a fair head and you got to come in with the mind able to read the battlefield. And that's what makes it enjoyable, man, is that you got a great group of guys coming in, and every week you never know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the main appeal for us is the quality of the units involved and the different type of play required as to what we usually do in the 42nd, which is most of the time, or has been for most of the time, a North American style Steam Chat events. And Fridays used to be absolutely abysmal for a Friday for events. The people that would play were toxic. The events were horrible. There was no real sense of coordination. It was basically a pub with extra steps and a lot more ego. 42nd actually retired from doing Friday events for up to until this started, probably about 2 months. We just would do a pub event, hang out. It was getting so bad. So when this came up, it was a welcome opportunity to finally get something not horrible, something fun and enjoyable, and competitive on a Friday. And the results have proven themselves. Our attendance rate is up to probably about 15% on average than we used to do since we started this event on Fridays. So yeah, that's our viewpoint on it.
Yeah, I think I would agree with everybody here. Very, very professional. And my previous unit, we did some European events. I thought, it was relaxed, it was chill. I had a fun time with my boys, and I felt like we needed uh, something like it for the NA side. And there was just really never something for Friday that did that. That was nice, relaxed, it was professional, and then Night made TSA, and I was like, I need to get in. This is where I want to be.
Yeah, and it's an interesting event. It attracts guys, I think, from both of those camps, kind of the EU and the NA camp. Um, and I think everybody kind of thrives in it, which is interesting. Other when you guys, actually, Knight, really you specifically. So, how do you approach picking maps and balancing the teams? What do you try to get after when you're doing that? What's your philosophy for the event for those two things?
So, used to in the first iteration of Southern Aggression, we just went from one all the way to the very bottom on the maps. It didn't matter what maps it was. We played Millers, we played River Crossing. We played all the maps that some events, outlaw, like UEC. They don't do. I don't think it's what Millers, and I think something else that those maps are not in there. We'll do every map because it is what it is. They're in the game. They're fun. I enjoy every map. There's only a select few that I personally don't enjoy, but the with the balancing of the teams is I look at it as you know I don't want one side with 5 30-man groups and one side with 12 10-man groups. I try to balance big units with big units. The faster paced NA units, you know, and we do have European units, NYV, uh, 88th New York, 6th New York. You know, a lot of those guys are European players. They really thrive in UEC, HRE. Well, to kind of help balance that, I'll put, some of the faster paced NA units with the European units so they can be kind of a mix of you've got the more historical units fighting alongside the faster, quick paced, kind of almost kind of look pubish style, but still have an organization to them that they can actually move cohesively to try to give a balance. So not everybody is just going to feel like they're being, just bullied. Like we've got units in here that's 4 5 8 men, come in and play. They enjoy it. They have fun because they still feel like they're able to do something because, yeah, they may not be able to stop that 30-man charge that's running across the field, but their little skirmish line can stand out there and they can hide behind rocks and fight, these historical units that will stand out in the open field and volley you. So it kind of gives I guess, a variety of gameplay where the skirmishers actually feel like they can do something, but the big line units actually feel like they can do something as well because they can hit those bigger units with each, against each other, but the small skirmisher units still feel like they're being viable and helping because they can get around, they can move around, they're not getting charged every 5 seconds, they're not being ramboed, they're not being, you know, chased down by, three 30-man units just chasing them down and all the way to their spawn. We try to keep it to where it's somewhat of a balance to where the small guys still matter, but the big guys aren't always relied on for everything.
Yeah, try to have a balance not only in the raw numbers, but in the types of units, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think you guys do a great job on that. I'm going to open this again up to the floor for anybody. Um, but have there been any, the campaign's been going about 3 months now, a little bit longer maybe. Are there any moments that really stick out to you guys that your units talk about? It's kind of like, around the campfire type of thing of, man, wasn't that crazy?
Eastwood
Second week?
skirmish last week, going into
Mm.
KB and First Virginia, I believe. That was fun because I did not realize that there were 2 units there. I was just gonna go over there and try and help 83rd defend that corner.
Dunkard Church, the second week. I wasn't here for the first week we attended, but I heard that went really well. But the Dunkard Church is, I think, even now pretty legendary. We've on Dunkard Church, Athens, Georgia, and First Virginia, and it was something like a Fredericksburg kind of situation. That we were almost astonished by the absolute suicidal bravery of our Union compatriots as they crossed that open field. It was very glorious, I must say.
Oh yeah, those were all great events. And some definitely great episodes there. And all of them I think I've used in the videos for extra pieces there.
I hope so.
So actually speaking of that a little bit, how do you guys coordinate as a team? I know there's no Steam chat in there, but how do you find the coordination both in the planning sessions before the maps and then in the execution?
Well, the planning becomes a lot more meticulous, obviously, when you can't directly contact your nearby commanders. So the planning takes a little more time usually, and it's supposed to be ideally set by pretty strict um, parameters before anything else changes. Like you hit your certain, phase lines or objectives, whatever, before you do something else, and it keeps things kind of a lot more methodical and careful, and it makes sure people have to kind of be a lot closer to each other, ideally, so they can communicate a little faster. And makes sure no one gets swallowed individually by getting too far away or off on their own. It keeps everyone nice and tight, which is lost sometimes and other NA events or some such where we got a lot of people that can act pretty independently because they, basically have a radio in their head, which, is not exactly the most realistic. But in this event, things happen a lot more like they happen slowly, the build up to it, and then everything kind of happens all at once because everybody's trying to get in the same place at the same time together, and then whenever something happens, it all happens to everyone at the same time because we're all together. There's no, what I mean. There's no half the teams off somewhere else. Hopefully, of course, doing something else. The fight, the anticipation is very, I think, realistic because it kind of builds up. With like, oh, there's some people, they'll shoot, kind of skirmishing. You kind of get a little closer to each other, and then at some point, it all turns into a fucking shit show. Everyone starts, someone somewhere charges somebody, and then everybody goes in because they can't. You can't tell someone, hey, I'm charging over here, help. Or don't help or whatever. I have it under control. People that see someone charge, and if they're, cohesive elements of a team, they're just gonna help them out without any words. So it tends to be a huge crash at some point, a massive conflagration of bodies and manpower as the whole team finally closes and gets to grips with each other. And I find that very interesting and atmospheric.
Yeah, and I will agree with Hood on that because, for example, tonight, if you haven't watched it yet, Kotau's videos are up on YouTube. Um, First map, Westwoods, I got shot in a charge, and as I died in the death screen, I could see 42nd coming at me in the death screen. And I hollered out in death, and I told Kelly's brigade, I said, hold, 42nd's coming, they're coming to help you. Well, I spawned back in on the flag. I didn't know what was going on. I hollered at the guys that were there. I said, 42nd's still up there. We need to get up there and go. We need to charge. And I was running forward, and Hood was coming at me. He goes, no, don't worry about it. We took care of it. So right there goes to, touch on what Hood was saying. Like you don't know what's going on unless you're in that heat of the moment. So like me, I was getting ready to just charge my guys right back into it. But luckily enough, Hood was coming back with what was, with 40 seconds, so saved a oopsie daisy there.
It's all very immersive.
What
Yeah.
I can say is like one of the best things I've ever seen on the battlefield is when we send runners. Some of the bravest guys that play War of Rights are runners, and that's the one thing that I think that is awesome because I've had runners from 42nd, Hood himself. I've had runners from KB. I've had runners from 1st Virginia say, hey, the enemy is over here. The enemy is walking up this area. And so it gives us time to set. But most of the time, agreeing with Hood and Knight, it's that heat of the moment. Like going back to what I'm saying about adapting to your battlefield, if you can't adapt right there and start communicating, which communication is key on the battlefield, then it gets pretty hectic and it can turn into a nightmare real fast. But with good communication, which is what TSA has most of the time, it works out really well when it comes to, hey, we got to reform right here, we got to get out here and let's try to flank them, or let's try to defend against the flank. They're hanging out on the snake fence. That way the team itself on either side of the faction can reorganize and get out there. And I see a lot of that in TSA. I see a lot of officers getting together and saying, hey, this is what's happening, this is what we're seeing. And so the communication, I believe, is not only really important, but it goes into the planning and following the plan, but it also goes into the heat of the moment and adapting into the battlefield.
Agreed.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
cooperation is really key. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step
Oh
on
no,
you.
I was just going to say, and that goes along with what they were saying too, about you know this event really kind of challenges commanders because you can't rely on Steam chat to tell you what's going on the field. You have to be intuitive enough, understand the maps, understand where the gunfire is, where everybody should be, and be able to think on your feet quick enough to make those split-second decisions whether or not to move or hold that position. And if you can't do that, you know, you may be all right, but you may also cost a really, you know, detrimental position within the fight because, you know, if Hood wouldn't have seen blue going into gray, you know, and he come and helped kill those guys, that could have been a really bad issue, a really bad spot because Kelly's brigade was the extreme left flank at the time that we charged into those Confederates. And if we wouldn't have got help, they had enough people there that they could have reinforced. They would have wiped us. They would have swept the Union from the left all the way across. And, they probably would have stopped them. But in the amount of loss of tickets in the game could have been honestly a really big turning phase, especially in that first round on Westwoods.
Now for this next one, I kind of want to go around the horn again, but for the rule for this one, you can't reference anybody that's in this chat.
Right.
So, are there any units, formations, people on Artie that when you see them on the other team, that you just dread? And is there any kind of event that kind of solidified, like, oh shit, here they come, here's this unit coming after me, we gotta get our shit together? Starting out with Mr. Joker, if you have any. If not, don't worry about it. You
Yeah,
can pass on.
I mean, so having played in a couple of the European events, knowing how good their shooting is, I definitely at times fear Parker, especially when it's a whiteout in the open. He may only have 15 guys at his disposal, but boy, they will eat up that line if you aren't careful.
Oh yeah, tip of the spear, like he likes to say. Mr. Hood, if you had anybody.
I fear no man nor beast. I only fear not doing enough for my team, and that is always the battle. The battle is not the enemy, it's what can I do for my guys together to win. I'll take on anybody.
This is true. I think Hood's only fear might be his other guys just losing sight of him as he's about 200 meters in front of them.
They're too slow. They got to keep up.
They got to catch up. What about you, Mr. Bubbacat?
Oh man, I can tell you one thing. Shout out to Mr. Mattis. Every time that man gets on a gun, I'm gonna tell you guys, it's pure slaughter and it's pure chaos. Having a case round go through your line and blow up and seeing your men turn into strawberry jelly, that's one thing that just terrifies me every time. So a big shout out to that Artie guy. because man, when he gets on, it's you don't play. You have to take him out or just prepare to be gray on your screen the entire time.
Gotta watch Mattis, man. He will get you. And that's coming from another arty guy, and you guys definitely know your stuff too in GB.
Man, let me tell you, the unit that I hate facing off against the most is that sorry no good Johnson and Hinkle. No, they're pretty alright guys. No, I will tell you though, Johnson took the name First Virginia, and he definitely has shown that he's got what it takes to fight with some of the bigger units in the community. Um, he'll punch you square in the mouth, especially if you're not paying attention. And if you are paying attention, he'll still rattle your teeth pretty good. First VA, they're a good unit. They're solid. They'll hit you just as hard as you hit them, and they'll stand out in the damn field and go slug for slug with you. So that they're one of the units that sometimes I just really just it's like if I know it's them out there, it's just like, oh god, here we go. This is gonna be a which one man left standing, volleying back and forth at each other because everybody else is already dead. So they're one of the units that I really do get aggravated. I can't mention anybody in this channel.
No, that's the rule. That's but no.
So
And then I guess again I'll leave this open to an open. I won't go around the horn, but if any of you guys had it, what was there any really surprising moments within TSA that like just completely shook what your expectations were, either good or bad, of like holy shit, just kind of not changed your view of the like the game, but just like wow, because you guys have all
the
been around for a minute, just new things you weren't expecting to see.
the Union slaughter on the right flank of Dunker Church.
Oh, I was
That
gonna say the Union on Bloody Lane as we continuously hesitated and we had General Hood had to come in on us.
brother.
Don't remind me. God, I thought I forgot it.
The entire Union taking the right of the field and eastward skirmish, I think it was last week, just seeing the amount of bodies in the open just slaughtering us. But at the same time, the tactical flanking that went with it and the sweeping, like that's shocking. I've never seen that in War of Rights before, and that's something that really did shock me.
Man,
Yeah.
all three of you guys had one. Shit, we've only again this event's only been going what 3 months now, Night about.
We started it. I think the very first like actual event was back late December. I think so. Yeah. Let's see. No, November 17th was the very first event, and that mustered both sides. I think was a 30v30.
So yeah, about just over 3 months then. Yeah, as of this recording.
I'll tell you what. Mine was that 12-minute roulette lane match. That was fucking brutal. Shocking. Absolutely dumbfounded mouth of Gabe shocked. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
do have to
so
agree
never
with
seen
that.
that before.
Yeah, that roulette
I
lane
love it
match, I
overall.
can tell you, Hood, that roulette lane match there's only one kind of specific reference to point that to. Hell on wheels, baby. Hell on wheels.
Yeah, it's
No, that was Bloody
definitely a
Lane,
mark
but
on my
backwards.
badge. Yeah, worse actually.
Those were all some good ones. But yeah, that roulette was tough to watch. Um, before we close out, I'll just kind of leave it up. Any other things you guys want to put out there about TSA that I didn't cover that you want to get out?
Professionalism. There is a standard here that everybody has to abide to, and everybody continues to be held to that standard. That's one of the things that I appreciate this event and all the admins and staff that put time into this event.
I mean,
Yeah. Go ahead, Bubba.
one thing I can say, if you're looking for one of the greatest events in War of Rights that brings people to the table, then this is what I'm going to say. Come to TSA, come here. It's peaceful, it's fun, it's fast paced, it's competitive. And at the end of the day, only the people who come out on top are the ones that are working the hardest. And it's so undetermined who's going to win that day. That's what brings the fun into the event instead of just kind of a lopsided event where one person's winning all the time and nothing's happening. This is TSA, and all I can say is, man, it's wild. Come out and come join us.
Yeah, I would say this is probably the ultimate test of any individual unit's cohesion and officer core. There's no one to help you. There's no one. You can't rely on other units to tell you what's happening. You have to get all the information you get and act upon, or you have to get yourself and act upon it pretty much on your own. So the most intuitive officers and NCOs and commanders are gonna perform well here, and the ones that are slacking in that department will be found out quickly, and you will be known. You'll feel it in the casualties that rack up when you make the mistakes that cost battles. So yeah, this is it, man. This is if you want to test out how competent you think you may be, this might not be a bad place to give it a shot. I think, anyways.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. This event has got a standard that we would want to uphold, and we will uphold it for as long as we're all around kicking, and that is professionalism, courtesy, and respect for each other. You know, there is trash talk on the field, but we try to keep it as respectful as possible. And if an individual of your unit is caught doing it wrongly, you know, he'll be warned, kicked, or removed from the event. If it still becomes a problem, just know that you will be removed from the event because we don't want that here. That's why this event was created, was to get away from that toxicity that the, you know, other events out there, you know, portray. That's the reason why Kelly's Brigade participates in Southern Aggression, House Divided, UEC, and the Historical Rules Book. So if you, like Hood said, if you feel like you got what it takes to come fight some of the units that's got really good intuitive officers, and me personally, I think the best of the best units are here. If you think you got what it takes, let us know. We got room. Come on in. Try it out.
Yeah, but on that note, what's the time date for the event, Mr. Knight?
Southern Aggression runs every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, uh, 6 o'clock Mountain, and what is it, 5 o'clock Pacific?
4 o'clock Pacific.
4
No, wait,
o'clock.
no, it is 5. I'm stupid. We muster at 4. I'm dumb. Don't listen to me.
Yeah,
It's
but
okay.
muster an hour early, right?
Yes. Yeah. Coordination starts an hour prior. Coordination starts at 7 o'clock, 7:05. As long as you're there before 7:15, come on in. Um, and see if you got what it takes to fight for that Southern Aggression.
And if you know what's good for you, you join a little bit earlier than that.
10 minutes before 7 o'clock. There's a special surprise.
Yeah, you're gonna have to join to see what that is, though. But
Yeah, we will not stay here.
but anyway, thank you guys for taking the opportunity to explain the event, and that's all I got. Until next time, this is Cotown signing off.